Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm LeetCoder. If you guys are new here, I pretty much do LeetCode style questions and I explain things in the simplest way possible. So today we have a pretty interesting problem. So let's go ahead and read about it. So I'm pretty excited about it. So let's go ahead and read that. So it says, given the head of a saintly length list, right, and two integers left and right, where left is less than or equal to the right. Okay, that's good. Reverse the nodes of the list from position left to position right, and return the reverse list, right? So they give us a pretty good example right there. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then we're also giving some parameters, guys. Remember to give us a 2 and a 4, right? So pretty much a left and a right boundary, pretty much that's gonna let us know which sublist, right? The starting position, right, which is the left pointer, and the end position, which is the right pointer, which is the left. The left integer, right, and then the right parameter pretty much tells us the ending of the boundary. You know what I'm saying, and they're inclusive, the range that they want us to reverse, right? So pretty much they're saying, guys, to start from the second node up to the fourth node, reverse that sublist, right, ending at the fourth node, right? So starting from the second node up to the fourth node, reverse that sublist, right? Everything that's in between and those, including those boundaries, the boundaries themselves, right? Reverse them. So that you see, that's why we end up reversing, right? See, 2, 3, 4 become 4, Jesus, 3, 2, right? That's how you were able to reverse it. So that now it's reversed. And now you see this one, it points to the head of the reverse list, right? And then this thing, the 2 points to the whatever node comes after, that's outside of the range, right? So this next example, right? So I explain it that way, guys, just for us to kind of come up with the intuition. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, guys, we're gonna be solving it in a pretty efficient way, a great way actually. So we've did a problem that's called reverse linked list, right? We've done that. We're pretty comfortable with that. Because if you guys are not comfortable and you guys haven't seen that problem, I highly suggest you guys go check that out. Something should pop up. It's a prerequisite for this problem because there's a lot involved here. A lot of manipulation of pointers. Reverse length list itself can be kind of confusing. So I would rather want you guys to go master that question first, and then come back to this question once you feel comfortable using different pointers to do manipulation and reverse a linked list, pretty much easily with your eyes closed, right? So now that the way we're gonna solve it, guys, it's gonna be pretty much the same way, same algorithm, guys. But pretty much what we're gonna do, guys, we only gonna but the only difference, we gonna only reversed only that sublist, right? Only the node that belong in that range, right? Starting from the left boundary up to the right boundary, right? So the trick is the way we're gonna go about it, right? Pretty much we're gonna have this couple pointers, right? So we gonna take reference to the head, right? And we're gonna loop through the list, right? And then we're going to pretty much stop when we encounter, we're gonna start at the first node that belongs to the list, right? And while doing that, right, we're gonna have this previous pointer, right, that's gonna be one step behind the curve. We've done numerous linked list problems on this channel, so if it's kind of confusing what I'm saying, you guys should go check that link, because we've done a lot of stuff that involves using multiple pointers on linked lists and all of that, right? So like I said, you got to do be the curve pointer that goes forward, right? And once we get to the first node that belongs to the sublist, right, we're gonna have this previous pointer that's gonna be one step behind it, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna connect that. We're gonna apply the algorithm, right? The reversal algorithm until we get to this node, right? We stop, right? We get to that node, we stop, right? And then once we get to that node, right, we pretty much connect whatever the first part, the part that doesn't belong to the sublist, right? We connect it to the head of the new reverse list, because we know that the last node of a list is going to be the first node, right? Just like we know the first node of a list, right, after we reverse it, it's going to be the last node of the list, right? So for this example, right, this node is going to be the tail, right, of the of the sublist, right? So that's why we're going to connect that to that pointer, right, to the whatever node that comes after the range, the sub list, pretty much, right? So I know it can be kind of confusing, guys. So I'm gonna go through an example, and before we jump into the code, right? So yeah, guys, let's just go through a quick example really quickly. So right now, what we're gonna do, we're going to pretty much that's what I add, right? So this is pretty much the list that we have here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the original list, right? That's this one, right? And then we get the output, and this is the output that we have, right? 1, 4, 3, 2, 5, right? So this is kind of what we want to end up with, right? So I'm gonna go through the example using this, all right? So you guys can fully understand what I'm trying to explain to you guys, all right? So yeah, guys, pretty much I told you guys, we have this current pointer, right? That's gonna help us to iterate through, right? And yeah, so we're trying to get to the first node that belongs in the sub list, right? With the sub list being the boundaries between, you know what I'm saying, the left and the right, right? That's the sub list. That's the sub list 2 to 4. That's the sub list that I'm referring to. All right. So we get the cur, right? Cur is gonna help us to iterate through. So we move cur forward, right? And then prev is gonna be one step behind, right? And don't worry, guys, I am going to be showing you guys why I have those variables. So I got you guys. All right. So we move that forward, right? So yeah. So we get the index variable as well, right? So this variable, let's call it I, right, is gonna help us in keeping track how pretty much it's gonna help us in keeping track to know when do we get to that particular node, right? So we're gonna know that we get to that node because we're gonna start I is equal to 1, right? And then I, so don't forget those boundaries, that the left is equal to 2 and the right is equal to 4, right? So while I is less than 2, right, we're gonna keep being in this loop, right? So cur is gonna move forward once, right? And prev is gonna move forward, right? Move forward to exactly where cur is at, right? And then cur, after prev get reference to where cur is at currently, right? Cur is all right, cool. Since you got reference to the previous node, now I can move forward, right? So now this is 2, and then it's I, right? It's gonna increment to 2, right? Through 2. All right. So now we would exit out the while loop, right? So we move pretty much up to that element, up to the left boundary, right? Cur is there, and then the previous node pretty much is the node that comes that's the last node, right, of whatever node, pretty much the last node of the part that does not belong to the last node of the part that does not belong in the sub list, right? Pretty much the last node of the first part is called this the first part, right? And then the part that comes after the list, right, let's call it the second part, right? So that there's no confusion. So with the first part being this one, right, 1, and then that's the last part, right? So just to clarify that, just to make it easier, right? So this is the first part, right? So now the previous node points to the last node that belongs to the first part, right? So with that in mind, guys, what we're gonna do, we're gonna start doing the reversal, right? Pretty easily. But before we do that, guys, we're gonna take a reference to the last node of the first part, right? First part, the last node, right? Pretty much prev always gonna be pointing to the last node of the first part, right? So if there's no last node to the first, there's no node. Let's say 1 was included in the sub list, right? Let's say left was 1, right? Then prev would be null, since we would not get into the while loop to move cur forward, right? So yeah. So now that we know that, right? So first part of last node, right? We take reference to that, right? Which is prev, right? Which is also means that this is this node that we're referring to. This node, which is 1, right? This one. So we first part last node points to wherever prev is at currently, right? So we take a reference to that because prev is gonna help us when we do a reversal. That's why we save it, because it's gonna get overwritten anyway. So we save that node, right? So now first node points to 1, right? And then we get the tail, guys, which is a very, very important. The tail is gonna be pretty much this one, right? Wherever the current pointer is pointing at, because that's gonna be, we know after we do the reversal, guys, let's say the head of whatever list, right, is going to be the last node of the list, right, after the reversal. Just like we know the last node on a list, right, after we reverse it, becomes the first node of the list, right? So that's kind of the same thought process, right? So the tail, right? So this is gonna be the tail after, right? I'm saying, so we save ref. So now tail is equal to cur, right? And then which means that, you know, for this particular case, it's 2, right? 2, right? All right, that's equal to 2. So now the next thing that we're gonna do, guys, we're gonna start doing our reversing algorithm, guys. We know how to do it. We've done numerous problems on that. So yeah, guys, now we're going to be applying the reversal algorithm that we all know and love, guys. I'm saying, so if you guys haven't seen that problem, I highly suggest you guys go check that out. It's going to be very, very helpful, very beneficial. So, so now we know that the end I is equals 2, right? So now we're going to use the same index, right? So the index plays a crucial role, right? To pretty much help us to be able to control how far we go into the loop, right? That's why we have this index pointer to pretty much help us in controlling how far do we go, the limit that, you know, so we keep track of the ranges. So we're gonna keep going until I is equal to 4, right? Once I is equal to 5, we're gonna exit out of the loop, right? Because the right is the boundary, right? Which is 4, right? That's where I'm saying that. So let's pretty much start doing the reversal, guys. So the 2 is gonna reverse its length, right? 4.22, 1, right? 1 is still pointing at 2, by the way. I'm saying, just to make it easy, I'm just doing that. And then 3 points to, so we do that, right? So 2 points to 1, right? Then we move forward, right? And then prev also move forward. And then this one also move forward, right? 3, right? Move forward. And after that, guys, we do the sub reversal, right? 3 points to this one, right? So I is equal to 4, right? After it reverses, right? Boom. And then now we move forward. And then pre moves forward as well. And then now, guys, 3 doesn't point to 4 anymore, right? So now 4 points to 3, right? And then they move forward, right? Curve moves forward. And then pre moves forward as well. And then this becomes 5. Then we exit out of the loop, right? We exit out of the loop, right? So now the linked list all kind of messed up, right? So let me just copy the list real quickly. So let me show you guys how it looks right now. All right, so what we have here right now, we have pretty much 4 points to 3, right? It's kind of reversal. 4 points to 3, 3 points to 2, right? And then 3 and 2 points to 1, right? And then and 1 also points to 2. So there's kind of a cycle going on right now, but don't worry, we're gonna fix it. It's gonna look all good after we're done with processing, right? We're not done yet. So it's still kind of messy, guys. So cur's right there and prev is right there, right? So what we want to do, guys, and then we got 4, right? Points to 3. So 4 is not pointing at 5 anymore. So he's not putting a 5 anymore. So 5 is kind of by itself right now. All right, just chilling. Say, all right, no, you guys just forgot about me. No, so you guys created your own family. So 5 is kind of disconnected, but cur has reference to that part, so we're not worried about losing it. That's where, you know, those kind of nodes that we kind of save the reference of those nodes, right? We kind of save them right there for a reason, guys. What I'm saying. So now what we're gonna do right now, we want to this 1, right, should be pointing to this one, right? So because 2 now is the last node of the sublist, right? So this 1 should be pointing to 4, right? Because yeah, so this 1 should be pointing at 4 now. So remember how we saved the first part of the last node, right? Pretty much the last node of the first part, right? Let me just check it out. So this is the last node of the previous part that comes before it, right? So last node of previous part, this node, right? Now it needs to point to the new, right? The new head of the sublist, right? The head of the sublist originally was 2, right? But remember when we reversed, right? The first becomes the last and the last becomes the first, right? So now this 1 should not point to 2 anymore, but point to 4. So we change that, points to 4, right? So we do first part of last node, right? We check, is it null? If it's null, guys, we're gonna be say, all right, cool, maybe 4 is the head now, so head is gonna equal to 4. But since that node is not null, right? We have reference to a particular node. Now we could say, all right, cool, that node points to that next is gonna be pointing to 4, right? And then now we need to do another connection, right? Because the 5, we lost it, right? We need to account for it as well. So what we're gonna end up doing, guys, we're gonna, so yeah. So right now, so right now we need to connect the 5, right? So now we do cur this node, right? So pretty much the tail, right? The tail, right? We took reference to that, which is this node, because I told you guys, the first node always becomes the last node, right? So after we reverse a list, right? So we do this nodes, right? This node's next, right? To point to, because cur, if there's a still nodes left, right? Like, let's say nodes that don't belong to that particular list, right? There's still nodes to be processed. We're just gonna connect that node to cur could be null, cur could be another node. It doesn't matter. We're just gonna connect to it to whatever cur's pointing at, right? So we do. I'm sorry about that. Add 2, right? And then we do this node points to what cur, right? This cur, right? So we just copy, and then now we point to the remainder, right? Part of the list, right? The remaining part of the list, pretty much. That's what I was trying to say earlier, probably. So yeah, just like that, guys. See, we have the actual answer that we're looking for just by following those steps, right? Pretty much we loop through first, right? Pretty much up to the left boundary, right? Including that node, and then we reverse that sublist until we get to the right pointer, right? And then we reverse that, and then prev is gonna be the head of the sublist, right? That we want, right? And then we just before we did the reversal, we saved the reference to the nodes to the last node that don't belong to that particular list. And then we just do the connection, simple like that, right? And we know that the first node of the list is going to be the last node of the sublist, right? The first node of the sublist is going to be the last node of the list, right? So we just connect that to cur, because cur is going to end up going to the node once we exit out the loop, right? It's going to go to the node that is not included in the sublist. So it's important for you guys to really drill this into your head, right? It's very, very important. It can be kind of tricky, guys. Let me know if I did a pretty good job at explaining it. Let me give me feedback so I can improve in teaching you guys and helping you guys elevate. So pretty much, guys, we're gonna take a reference to. We're gonna just write the algorithm now, right? So we do cur, guys. Is gonna go to head, right? Then we have this node cur. We have this previous node that's gonna be one step behind null, right? Because initially it points to null, right? Remember where I had prev right here, it was pointing at null initially, right? And then, guys, we're gonna have this index pointer that's gonna help us in controlling how many steps forward we go to, right? So we do while, guys, the cur is not null, right? And the index, right, is less. So we could either do left -1, right? Or we could just start off with 1, right? Because you could, whatever logic you want to, you just want to make sure that cur points to the first node of the sublist, right? So very, very important, you guys get that. So after we do that, right, we know we're going to be incrementing the index pointer at every iteration, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to take reference to where cur is at right now. Maybe one step behind, right? Go to cur that next, right? And then, guys, we should be in pretty good shape after that, right? So now, before we do the reversal, guys, remember we need to take reference of the particular nodes that we need before everything gets all messed up and the pointing in. I'm saying, so pretty much first node, now first part, last node, right? We take reference that prev is going to be. I told you guys that prev is going to go to prev, right? And then we do list node. We need tail, right? The tail of sublist, you can call it that. This node of tail of sublist is equal to the currently where the cur is at, right? Because it's cur right now is at the head of the sublist, right? But the head is going to become the tail, so we know that. So now the next thing that we're going to do, guys, which is very important, and we're going to do the same thing. Well, cur is not null, and the index, right, is less than or equal to the right, right? Because including the right, because it's inclusive, right? We're just gonna do the reversal algorithm, right? So we take a reference of cur that next, right? And then we do cur that next, guys. Points to the previous node, right? The previous node is gonna be the current node for the next iteration, right? And then the current node is gonna go to the original next node, right? And then we every iteration we increment the pointer in x++, right? So that we can control how far do we go into the loop, right? So we do a couple checks, right? Remember I told you guys, so we check, right? This is the first part of last node null, right? Which means that was pre null pretty much, right? If pre null, that means that the head belonged in that sublist, right? That means we didn't get to go into this loop, right? That's what it means pretty much, right? So if first part of last node is not null, right? That means that we have some kind of reference. Pretty much we're gonna do first part of last node, that next, right? So now I can connect the 1, right, to the head of the sublist that we have, right, after the reversal. The head now, remember after we reverse any list, right, prev is always at the head of the list, right? So we just connect that to the previous node, right, which is this one, right, which is the head, right, after we reversed it. And then we do else, right, if it was null, right, first that node was null, right, we know that the head is going to be pretty much prev, right, because prev is at the head of the sublist, right? So after we do that, right, we do the last thing, right, tell that next, right, which was the case where 2, right, 2, right, which was the tell, right? Remember we saved it, right? That next points to whatever the current pointer is pointing at, right? Is equal to current, right? And yeah, after that we should be in pretty good shape. So we return the head, right, after we do all of this magic. All right, let's check if we pass these small test cases, guys. Tell a sublist, my bad. Run code. All right, perfect. We passed these small test cases, guys. Let's see if we pass all the test cases, guys. Perfect, guys. We're able to pass all the test cases, guys. Well, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. If you guys found value, make sure to give me a like. If you guys are new here, make sure to subscribe because I'll be doing a lot of other videos just like this one. So I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch this, and I'll see you guys in the next one.